Welcome back to Ladies of Another View. Now believe it or not, we like upbeat news. And this isn't that upbeat, but the upbeat part of it is that parents are getting involved. We also like to inform people of what's going on. And so I'm going to welcome to the show somebody from the Parents Defending Education to talk about what's going on in the schools with our children. And they have a very good track record. They are fighting a lot of these things. So welcome to the show, Mailyn. Hi, Mailyn. And we've been discussing how to pronounce your name. I'm going to let you. So tell me, what is your last name?
Mailyn Salabarria.
Did you catch that, everybody?
That's okay. You can use it to practice rolling the R's.
There you go.
Having me in the show, we really appreciate it.
Yeah. But Mailyn, we can do, and I want to thank you for all your hard work. I love Parents Defending Freedom, Defending Education, because my goodness, we've needed you. And we didn't know how bad things were in the schools. And so we know that by supporting you, that it's a way to help education in this country, because you're digging in, there's lawsuits, you're equipping parents. So I really encourage people to go to your website, which is Parents Defending Education, or it's called defendingeducation.org, right?
Yeah, it is defendinged.org. So yes, there is a plenty of information of all the work that we have done, the current investigations, and lots of educational resources and statistics for parents, for families, and for education advocates to get, back on the wheel of directing their bringing and education of their children.
So you're equipping parents, and when you talk about education, we're supposed to be educating kids, right? Is that happening? What's going on with math and reading scores?
Well, you guys probably saw in the last couple of weeks news with the recent declines on the national scores. It's really staggering. We are talking about numbers that have declined to levels back to the 1970s. And this is on top of all the time resources and taxpayers' monies of public investment into public education in the country. The sad part of these newest reports is that the students that were already at disadvantage are now in the lowest levels of those testing scores, which means that we have failed a huge portion of the newer generation to get them prepared to be productive members of society in the future. And then when you dig into those numbers a little bit more, you're going to see that the math scores are like at the top, lower 10%. The students that were at disadvantage and were already kind of like lagging behind in that one are doing worse. And how I usually call it, to add insult to injury, the students who are in disadvantaged groups, low-income families, minorities, they have the worst of all those combined scores. So yeah, we definitely need to focus the time and the resources of the classrooms in academics, and our children deserve that we do better for them.
Absolutely. I feel like there's so many different ideologies going around that are really affecting these test scores. And is there certain ones that you guys address as your organization or are working to fight against?
Definitely. The trend that we have seen in the 2 years that Parents Defending Education have been doing this grassroots and collaboration education advocacy work, it's what we're listening from parents and education advocates and seeing like a very sad trend nationwide. And sadly, these scores prove the point that we have been calling as red flags for a long time now, is that the time in the classroom and the resources are being used for agendas and ideologies that do not have anything to do with academics. And as a result, the academic scores, the performance, the knowledge, and the preparation that our children are receiving in the classroom are completely misprioritized. They're using, again, the time and the resources for something that is not academics. And just to put a clear example of something that we have been listening from parents and seeing in the school districts nationwide, is like we have this big push right now, for example, to teach children new pronouns, and they're not going to be able to read them because, again, we are prioritizing the time of academics and using it in something else that do not belong in the K-12 classroom.
So when I was familiarizing myself with your website, I came across a kind of a map that you have areas of concern in the country, and North Dakota did not fare very well either. There are 2 areas of our state where there's issues, and right here in Bismarck, I noticed that there's a lot of SEL and CASEL that's being infused, I will say, into the classrooms instead of the math and the reading and the science and those types of things. Can you explain to people a little bit more about how SEL, when they say social emotional learning, it's not just to say, oh, you're fine, Sally, and yeah, they're actually pushing things.
There has been a shift, a very concerning one, with the topics that have to do with social emotional learning. And we have learned around this journey. We collaborate with so many teachers and educators, both retired and still in the classrooms, that have been able to provide us with their experience to see how different the classical social emotional learning that we're familiar with, that we know that students, especially in the younger ages, need to be able to, to succeed in a school, to be able to work groups and all that, is completely different from what is being infused in the classroom right now, which is what they call the transformative as social emotional learning. There is like a wide divide between the 2 concepts. Why? Because the newest one, it's also being permeated by all these political agendas and ideologies that doesn't have anything to do with what the kids should be learning in the classroom.
Yeah.
So can we call this experiment off? The social emotional learning, critical race theory was supposed to help the people that needed it the most, the students, the kids that need it the most. And the statistics show they're the ones that are doing the poorest. So do you do more of what's not working? That's insanity, right?
I know, right? It's the definition of insanity. Yeah, and you continue to see the push to use public funds and classroom time, again, to all these new programs and ideas that what are demonstrating is that we're failing our kids because they're not learning the things that they're supposed to.
So when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the gender craziness that is also hurting our kids. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to Ladies of Another View. We've been talking with Mailyn, who is, you are a Director of Community Engagement with Parents Defending Education. We all care about education, whether your kids are grown, whether you don't have kids. These are our communities. And I want to make the point, we were talking about the plummeting test scores, especially in math and reading, and with all the SEL and critical race theory, it's supposed to be, that was designed to help the kids who are struggling, and they're the ones who are failing the most. Things are getting worse. Well, let's talk about some of the craziness with the gender. We touched on it a little bit in the last segment. Like, we can't even remember all the different pronouns, and it doesn't even make any sense of what a pronoun is when you come up with this myriad of what are pronouns, who is what gender. But look what is happening since we've started this show 2.5 years ago. Things are happening that we never could have imagined. So I've looked at some of the pride parades across the country, and yeah, they always were inappropriate, but now it is common. Those stars weren't on their butts when they were riding in the parade. And I saw a video of this, guys walking around, shaking themselves around in front of children. And this is the part that made me the most disgusted, is everywhere they do this. This is in Seattle, but this is happening across the country. And people are cheering and shaking their hands like, what a bunch of nimrods. Wake up, parents, and look at this. Now this is, I'm having trouble reading it. It's not just, what is it? Not Today, Jesus. And it's got this Baphomet, that's one of the satanic gods. I could give you, we could sit here all day and just put pictures up about that.
But that's what's happening with the children in the school system when they are constantly bombarded with all of these confusing messages. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that the over-sexualization of the environment where minors are supposed to be learning academics and learning the basic skills that, again, are going to prepare them to be successful when they are adults. We are failing at doing that. And again, the test scores is only one of the examples and measurements that we have to demonstrate that. It's actually really important to realize, and this is some information that you can find in our website as well, with polls that we have done with parents and voters all over the country, how high the percentages of parents that disagree with these happenings in the classrooms are. However, you don't see or hear about it too often. There is definitely a concerted effort to infuse and continue infusing these topics into the classroom in a way to over-sexualize and desensitize minor children, and at the same time, we are neglecting the classroom instruction that they should be receiving. We have a recent example in Colorado a couple of weeks ago. You probably were able to see the little dot in our map in the previous segment, where a behavioral health clinic that works with 3 school districts providing IEPs and providing therapies for students with special needs in these school districts, mostly students with autism. They were promoting drag queen reading story hours for special needs children. And then we get these families and these parents calling us, reporting the incidents and asking, I want somebody to explain me how this helps my special needs child to acquire the skills that he needs to be successful in school. And this is just one example. You saw all the red dots that we have in our indoctrination map that goes from topics of gender ideology to so many other agendas that, again, do not belong in the environment of the classroom.
You know, we talk about all these issues that are going on, and I believe we have a graph of the nation's report card and just how bad it's gotten. Can you kind of touch, I know we've talked about it so much, but I don't think people truly realize just how bad it's gotten out there.
I think that the biggest concern with this is that we're now reacting with the shock of the nation's report card. But when you sit down and you analyze it with a cold head, you realize that it's probably too late for all these students. Our kids in middle and high school, literally that train left the station for them, and they're going to be struggling with the rest of their future careers, regardless of what they decide to do when they graduate. Now, we still have a little bit of time to help the younger students bridge these learning loss, to bridge this learning gap, and to refocus the classroom time and resources into the things that can help them to be academically successful. And I think that's the part that a lot of people are missing. Sadly, we as parents, as communities and societies, to a point we fell asleep in the wheel. And that was kind of like the silver lining of COVID, is that parents and families and communities suddenly had like a one VIP view of what was really happening in the classroom. And that's when we started to wake up into what was happening, topics and the things that were being taught, and start connecting the dots to the results and all the sport problems and all the proficiency problems that we have with our kids graduating from school right now. So yeah, it's sadly, the bigger picture is that this is not going to be solved in 1 or 2 years in interventions. We're talking about almost $2 billion in federal aid supposed to go to education to solve these problems, and look at the scores. Why? Because again, the time and the resources are being used into the wrong priorities. We should be doing better. We owe our kids to give them a better education, to be able to have a better future in our society.
But you know, kids are not the issue, really. I mean, it's coming from administration, it's coming from the teachers, and who is teaching the teachers how to teach? How far back do we have to go to make the corrective move?
We are right now, we are like at the receiving end of the layer that have to do with our children in the classroom. Sadly, this is a systemic problem that has been happening for decades now, and it starts in the institution of higher education in this country. It starts in the schools of education where students are being prepared to become teachers. Why? Because we are not longer preparing educators. We are forming activist teachers. And when you kind of like change the focus of the entire career so drastically, then all of a sudden you start picking up the results in the classrooms where the priority is no longer academics, complete, thorough education that is going to prepare this child for the future and is more focused on agendas and ideologies and all these feel-good things that at the end of the day, again, do not belong in the K-12 classroom.
So that was such a good point, Jan, because I came across a young man a couple years ago when he said there's only two genders, male and female, and he was kicked out of his education program in college unless he went through a re-education program. So it's like you're not allowed to have conservative thoughts. You're not allowed to think there's two genders, which the whole world thought there was two genders until recent years. And the vast majority of parents, I know you have statistics on your site, the vast majority are against this. They don't want this being taught to their kids. You're talking about, so 75% that teachers should be informing their parents if the kids identify as different pronoun. But some schools, like in Fargo, North Dakota, and other schools, no, we're going to hide that from parents because they think they know better. And they don't think that they should be pushing this kind of thing. But these teachers have been indoctrinated, the school boards have been, so they think we're the problem, we're the enemy. This is the number of students in school districts that have transgender non-conforming policies. So you can't, so a guy that got, there was a lawsuit recently, a boy wore a t-shirt to school saying there's only two genders. Well, he was told to take it off or he was expelled from school. Like, we are being shouted down, and the brainwashing of school boards and teachers thinks, oh, these parents are the problem, these old-fashioned, we have to protect their kids from them. And so, my goodness, this is really deep-rooted.
I think it's deep-rooted in a very basic concept that is one of the foundations of this society and our country in general, and it is that it is the right and the responsibility of the parents to direct the upbringing and the education of their children. There is a constitutional precedent for that for a reason, and a lot of these problems that we're seeing in schools nowadays is because we have this new mentality that they truly believe they are the children of the state. Well, I guess we have news, they're not. They're our kids, and we are the ones who have the final word in what is the best for their education and their future.
That's pretty scary when you think about it. It seems like it's kind of an uphill battle, but the first step is the right step, so we all have to get engaged.
And I don't know if we have the graphic from your map. Your indoctrination map is very, very interesting. I don't know if we still have the graphic of, I took a look at the Bismarck school because we had 2 complaints. People come forward and provide that information. So the Bismarck schools, there have been 3 incidents in the indoctrination map, and you can go there, click on, learn more. Go to, if you go to their website, defendinged.org.
.com. Oh,
No,
.org.
it's .org.
It says,
now that we've got you confused,
yes, sorry about that.
defendinged.org, because this is an ongoing fight, and I'm so glad that parents are stepping up to the plate across the country. They're saying no more. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. And again, refer everybody to our website. That's where parents are going to find not only investigations and incidents, but also resources and how to connect with parents groups that are already created in your state. And again, our contact information is there. If there's anything that we can help you with, please reach out. That's what we do. We're helping parents and education advocates all over the country.
Thank you so much, Mailyn, for joining us.